In today's video, I'm here to bring you 3 looks using the Hallberg Spectral palette. So if you want to see how I created this look as well as 2 others and my final thoughts on this palette and if I think you should be picking it up, then keep on watching. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bettina and I'm the makeup enthusiast. And if you're new around here, I hope you would consider subscribing down below so you can keep up to date on all my videos. I release videos every Monday and Friday. Without further ado, let's jump on into the 3 looks and my final thoughts at the end of the video. If you want to see some swatches and the first look that I created using this palette, I will leave that linked up in the corner. I've already done a video of my first impressions of this palette and I did swatches and a look using this palette in that video. So I will leave that linked up in the corner if you're interested at all. So starting off, I'm going to go in with my MAC Painterly paint pot and I'm not going to set this one today. So first I'm going to take Eerie and I'm going to pop this into my crease. And because my paint pot isn't set, I am stamping this into my crease. And I want to build the colour up quite a bit. And I'm going to bring this up towards the brow bone. Then in with the colour Unknown on a fluffy brush. Just running that on that top edge of Eerie. And then on the lid, I'm taking Phantom. Then going in with Faint. I'm just going to pop that on top of that Phantom colour. Just going back in with the first brush and the colour Eerie. Just stamping that on this outer corner here in the crease. Same on the other eye. My base is done and I'm back to just do my lower lash line, and I'm also going to, while I'm here, I'm going to dip into the colour Dim and I think a little bit of Unknown for my blush. I really like this palette for blush. This colour Dim is beautiful. I'm just going to mix a touch of Eerie in there as well, just to kind of tie in the purple a little bit with the eyes. Now for my lower lash line, I'm going to take the colour Eerie and just pop that on the outer corner to begin with. I'm going to bring this down a bit lower than I normally would, so the lower lash line will be quite thick compared to what I normally would do. Then I'm going to take Phantom and then a touch of Unknown just on the lower edge of both of those colours. And on the inner corner I'm going to take the colour Dim and I'm just going to wet it as well, just so I have. I want it to stick as well. And for my lower lash line, I'm going to take this colour by Colourpop and it is Crybaby. It's like a really pale purple, almost white I guess you could say. This is the first look using the Hallberg Spectral palette. I've already primed my eyelids with my MAC Painterly paint pot, so I'm starting off by taking this brush from Colourpop. It's like a pinched blender packer. So just running Eerie, which is the light purple, into my crease. And I'm just stamping this in to build up the colour. Rather than blending it, I'm going to stamp it in to intensify the colour and make it stick onto that paint pot right from get-go. Then in with Occult and laying this down on my outer corner. Then in with Illusion all over the lid. And I just have a really small detail brush. This is the Ella Cosmetics detail brush. I'm just going to see how this goes with just the paint pot. And back in with the colour Eerie, and I'm just going to just pat really gently along the edge. Lower lash line. I'm going to go in with a Cult right on the outer corner using my little Super Beauty smudger brush. I'm just going to run that just probably about a third of the way across. I'm then going to go with Phantom the rest of the way. This is one of my favourite colours in this palette. This colour Phantom. I just think it looks so nice. Then for my inner corner, I'm going to take the colour Faint. Then for my waterline, I'm taking the Colourpop eyeliner in Zulu. Alrighty, and we have finished the second look. So I'm just starting off with my MAC Painterly paint pot as per usual. And I think I'm going to set all that as well just with my Model's Own face powder. So I'm just going in with a winged liner brush. I'm just going to dip into Phantom and just start mapping out my wing. I'm going to use my Super Beauty liner brush as well just to try and get the tip of the wing quite precise. Just to map it out initially really lightly with the colour, and then I'll try and go over the top with it and see if I can build up the colour. Now I think you could very well leave it as basically this, so it's very subtle. These colours, they can build up, but they do need a bit of a sticky base. I thought I might try and see, just for something different, how these mix with water. So I've just got some water in this bottle here, and I've just sprayed a little bit on my metal palette just to put on my brush, and I don't want to saturate my brush too much. And I'm just going over what I've already done. So you can see it's intensifying a little bit. I also want to go ahead and I might grab out my Duraline, see how these shadows mix with Duraline. But you can see it has intensified it a little bit, but not enough for my liking. Best thing about Duraline is that you can pretty much turn any shadow you want into like a cream or a liquid shadow, and you can then have it as a liner. How I use, rather than putting this directly onto the shadow that may ruin it, I'm going to put just one drop on my metal palette. One drop will be more than enough. And then just with my metal spatula, scraping off the tiniest little amount from the shadow, and then just on my metal palette, I'm going to mix this in with the Duraline, and you should get like a bit of a paste. So I'm just laying this over the top of where I've already gone. One thing to also note with Duraline is you need to let it dry. We are having a moment today with our base. I don't know what the hell's going on with my base, but it just wasn't working. It looks really patchy and like flaky in sections. I put like a face mask on this morning, and I think it may have like left a residue behind that's reacted with the primer that I used today. Not fun. Okay, I might just use Dim to start off with as my blush. This one you need to like build up slowly, because if you go too hard too fast you can end up looking like a little bit of a clown. On my waterline, I'm going to take the colour Zulu from Colourpop, and then for my inner corner I'm just taking a pencil brush and the colour Dim, and I think I want to put a fair amount on the inner corner so it's like pretty noticeable. So I think I'm going to flare it like up and down a bit, like I want it to be pretty noticeable. Alrighty, so this is the third and final look using the Hallberg Spectral palette. So, my final thoughts on the Hallberg Spectral palettes. I still kind of don't know how I feel about this palette. There are aspects of this palette that I absolutely love, and there are aspects of this palette that I don't love. So I guess let's go through what I don't like, because I guess there's more things that I like about this palette than things that I don't like. It's just going to come down to your, like, how much value, again, you place on eyeshadows, and whether for you a palette that you're not going to use the whole amount of is worth $90 to you. This palette is worth $90 Australian through Beauty Bay. This palette is very different to what Linda Hallberg has in the rest of her collection. The color Abstract is probably one of the colors in the palette that I don't enjoy all that much. It is a very pretty color. I just find it too difficult to work with, and for a color like this, for the price tag that is attached to this palette, it's just very disappointing for it to perform the way it performs, and for it to be so much work. Like, the amount of work that you have to put in to get this color to perform to a level that I think it needs to be at, I think it's not worth it. And I don't think it works in this palette. I traditionally don't really like toppers. For me, it's just like an extra step, and I'd rather just have a shimmer that works from get-go rather than having to layer it over the top of something else. I understand the whole concept behind it. Linda Hallberg is really well known for having products that can be used for multiple purposes. Traditionally, you apply these with your fingers, and that's just, I'm just not about that life, and it just doesn't really work all that well by itself. These shimmers, particularly Illusion, I did find with Abstract as well, so much fallout. So I think if you're going to be using Illusion or Abstract, because of the fact that they are like topper shades and you are traditionally applying them over like something else, I would recommend doing your eyes first if you're going to be using either of these colors in a look. The other color that I have had an issue with is the color Occult, and I just find that I can't get this to be the intensity that I like deep purples to be, and I do find it really patchy. I find as I'm layering this color, the patchier it gets. It just loses its effect, I think, when it's paired with these other colors, because it can't really keep its intensity when you're layering on and pairing it with other colors, or if you blend it too much, like, it just muddies up. So those are the two colors out of the palette that I'm not the biggest fan of. Out of all the shimmers, Faint and Dim are my favorites. In terms of the shimmers, this color Dim, oh my gosh, I have it on my inner corners today. This just adds like a pop on the inner corner. It's just something so different to what I normally do. If you're going to use this palette all by itself, like if you're going to do a whole look out of this palette, you really only have the choice of Dim and Faint or Illusion. Illusion is difficult to work with on the inner corner, but Dim and Faint on the inner corner, it just adds something different to your look. Normally I would reach for like a silver shimmer with a shift of whatever color I want on my lid as the inner corner, but these just take the look just a different route because it is a peach and a green. I think these two definitely add something interesting and different to the palette and the looks that you use, but I would like to see some form of like silvery white sheen with maybe a shift to it somewhere in this palette. Maybe like a blue shift or something like that. Maybe if this one was a white with a blue purple shift rather than a blue base, that I think would have gone amazing in this palette if you replaced this color here. And even this color Occult, I think it works well in the palette. I just wish it was a better formula. The colors Eerie, Phantom and Unknown. Oh my gosh, the color Phantom has my heart. Every time I think I've used this palette so far, I've wanted to include Phantom in the look somehow. I've just worked my way to being able to work in Phantom in the look somehow. I think it is the standout color in this palette, and for me it is very unique to my collection, and I'm so happy that I have this palette with the color Phantom. I don't know whether Phantom's worth $90 itself, but it is a beautiful color. I absolutely love this color. Eerie is also a really nice color, and I think if you are going to do a look with the color Occult, I think Eerie is a good color to pair with it. If you're wanting to blend out Occult like on the edges or anything like that, Eerie does go really well with it. The color Unknown, it is a pink, and I typically don't normally grab for pinks, but this is a really nice tone when working with the rest of the palette. I do really like these three shimmers out of the whole palette. They are my favorite colors. The color Illusion. Now, I think the first look I did with this palette, I tried to put Illusion on my inner corner and it just didn't really work. It just flaked everywhere, and because of the chunky formula, it didn't really look all that great. I did, however, pair this colour on my lid in a look that I did. I think it was look number 2 in this video. I did pair this on my lid with the colour Occult. I absolutely love that look. Now back to my beloved Dim. Dim is one of the most amazing colours for blush. I think if you need to have a palette that works all well together, you can do one eye look and have blush in the same palette. Oh my gosh, Dim is a beautiful, beautiful colour. If there was a colour in this palette that was able to be also used as a highlighter, I think this would be an awesome all-rounder palette that you could do your eyes, your cheeks and your highlighter all in the one palette. I think these 3 colours as blushes, when you're working with this palette, to make sure your blush is like kind of matching your eyes and keeping in with the same tone, use these ones in the palette as your blush and you're not gonna be disappointed. So all in all, I'm not disappointed that I have this palette. I think the more that I work with this palette, the more I enjoy it. These colours are very unique to my collection. I don't think I have anything in my collection that has these colours already, so I'm happy that I did purchase it. I just don't know whether you need to purchase it. If these colours are unique and you, I don't want to say have more experience with working with eyeshadow, but if this is the first colourful palette that you're going to buy, I think you're going to be very disappointed because it is a bit of a tricky palette to work with and pair colours together and keep them nice without them muddying up. Yeah, I don't know whether if you are a newbie to makeup, I think you would struggle with this palette quite a lot, and I think for $90 it's a very pricey colourful palette to get as one of your like first colourful palettes. Whereas if you are a bit more experienced and you think you'll use all these colours, or if there's a particular colour in here that you absolutely think you need in your collection, then by all means go on ahead and spend the $90 and get this palette. Kind of wish she reduced the size of the pans even by half and like doubled the amount of shadows in this palette, or halved the size of the palette and just had smaller pans. I don't think the pans need to be this big. It just annoys me a little bit when the pans in like a colourful palette like this are this big. $90 is a lot to pay for an 8-pan eyeshadow palette. Like, it's pretty, the packaging is beautiful. I'm glad that I have this in my collection, but I don't know how often I'm going to be grabbing for this, to be honest. I don't think my good conscience can tell you that you need this palette. Obviously you don't need any makeup. If you're like me and you want to try something new from Linda Hallberg, by all means go ahead and spend the $90. You can do what you want with your money. If I had the chance to try this before I purchased it, I probably would still buy it, purely based on the fact that some of these colours are so unique in my collection and it is filling a gap for me. Those are my final thoughts on the Linda Hallberg Spectral palette. Make sure you let me know down in the comments box what your favorite look was that I created out of these 3 looks, and if you have this palette, let me know how you're getting on with it, whether you have had any teething issues with it or anything like that. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you like eyeshadow palette reviews. Also, if you're new around here, I hope you would consider subscribing down below. I upload videos twice a week, every Monday and Friday, and I also go live on YouTube on Sundays. That's it for this video, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.